time for the GeoGeeks, our regular segment where we bring in a subject matter expert to tell us about what's new and what's interesting in one of our core ArcGIS products.
Today we welcome back Sue and Yeti, Esri Canada's geomobility advocate and our resident field apps GeoGeek. Sue, what do you want to talk about today? Camping, maybe some wine, maybe cats, whatever you want.
Those sound good, but I think since we are going to talk about field apps, probably talking about camping might tie in better to that topic.
Yeah, that's probably true. So today we want to talk a bit about location sharing, but I honestly have no idea what that is. So why don't we start there? What is location sharing?
So location sharing creates a spatial link between staff in the office and those working remotely. And it's a capability available in your ArcGIS organization, whether you're using ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. It allows mobile users to share their location for as long as they need to while remotely doing work. And it collects their location, their path as points, kind of like a breadcrumb trail. Also stores as a line and their last known location as a point. And then they're stored in your ArcGIS organization with all kinds of options as a location feature layer that can be shared.
Sounds like really useful information that I'm sure a lot of people are excited to have in their organization. If in your experience working with the location tracking, what are some real world applications of location sharing that you've seen?
Well, I think it's really useful in a situation where it's important or critical to know where the staff is when they're working remotely and where they've been. So one example I've seen is for monitoring special events. So if there's a large scale event, you want to ensure the safety of not only your staff, but of say the crowd and provide quick response time. We actually used this, the Edmonton Police in the Grey Cup in 2018, and they just used what was called Tracker back then to track where the police officers were during the event. And they were able to respond if there was an emergency because they knew where the staff was. And they also put this information into a dashboard, which is a really good way to display where staff is and also if you're tracking any incidents. Other examples I can think of is if you have an emergency operating center, again, during an event where you need that situation awareness. So if you have a flood event, you could monitor where your remote staff were, if they were going out collecting flood information, monitoring what's going on with the citizens and inspecting damaged properties or evacuating people. You could make sure, again, they're safe. And also if you need someone somewhere really quickly, you know exactly where they were. And other examples I've seen is where an organization needs to provide a proof of work that the remote crew were actually on a property, not only just like collecting a point inspection, but actually their whereabouts while they're on a property. It's been used for that quite often. So there's a couple of real world examples of location sharing.
Yeah, I think I remember using Tracker walking around Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton for a demo.
Yes, we made you work hard for that one, Mark, because you were
Yeah.
out in Edmonton early.
I actually had to go outside. Oh my goodness, it's kind of freaked me out.
Oh,
So
dear.
RIP Tracker. We miss Tracker very much, but I'm sure this technology is now applicable to our more modern apps. So what apps can be used to enable location sharing?
So location sharing first needs to be enabled in your organization. It's typically done by an ArcGIS administrator. And once they do that, it is based on a license. So the licenses must be provisioned. It used to be called a tracking license. Now it's called a location sharing user type extension. It's available for purchase as an add-on for any user type, but we've actually included it with the mobile user type, which makes sense because they are the ones who are going to be collecting information in the field. And the three apps that you can use location sharing or use to share your location are Field Maps, Survey 123, and Quick Capture. And that's how you could use it. Just whichever one you're using for your data collection project, you could also use location sharing if you've had it provisioned.
Okay, so if you have it in the organization, then how do you go about connecting to that sharing service? It just is a license, or how do you connect?
So once that configuration is done and the users have the license, for each of those three apps, it's slightly different. So for Field Maps, you don't have to do anything. That's kind of taken over for Tracker. Just when you open up your map, long as you're licensed and you're part of that track view for that you're part of the group of people who can use it, you just have to say use tracks and it's turned on. In Survey 123 and Quick Capture, someone needs to say this project or this survey is going to use location sharing. And again, it's the same thing. They need to turn it on for their project. And it is the way we've designed location sharing, it does need user consent to turn it on. So you have to say, yes, I'm willing to use or share my location in any of these 3 apps. There are some options that you can make your map or your project for data collection require location sharing. But if someone didn't want to share location, they just wouldn't be able to access that map or use that project. So
You know what? I had no idea you could do this on Survey 123. I think that is
yeah,
so
it's pretty
cool.
new. It's pretty new. It's last year.
I love it. All right, so what happens if you're not connected to the internet? Maybe you're in the field, in the bush somewhere. Does location sharing still work when you're disconnected?
Yeah, it does. And that's actually a good question because a lot of times our mobile apps are used by really remote staff who don't have cellular or Wi-Fi. And not only do all our apps work offline, location sharing works as well. It needs a GPS signal. So whether that's from your own device or you have an external GNSS that you've connected with Bluetooth, it will use the location. And what happens is that the tracks, the points and the lines are stored locally on your phone or tablet. And once you are connected, they will be uploaded. Normally, the tracks and lines are uploaded every 10 minutes and your last known location every 1 minute, but they'll sit on your phone as long as you're offline. I was offline for 5 days testing this, and they were all uploaded at the end of that 5 days because I had zero connection till I came out of my trip.
Wow, 5 days in the wilderness. It's pretty exciting time.
It was good.
Yeah, I don't know if it's not for me, but it sounds like fun for you. Not you either, Mark, eh? Indoor cats here.
That's right.
When you do eventually make it back into the office or back to connection, how do you go ahead and see the tracks that you've collected?
Yeah, so there's the mobile part, which is any one of those 3 map or apps, Survey 123, Field Maps, or Quick Capture to capture the location. But then in the ArcGIS organization, there's something called the Track Viewer. And again, it's an administrator type of person who would have to not only say, these are the people who can use location sharing, but these are the people who can see these specific tracks for this group of users. So it'd be like you have a group of people on a team and maybe only their supervisor gets to see where they are. So we're careful about making sure that user privacy is maintained. So these location tracks in your ArcGIS Online organization, they're kept for 30 days. If you want to keep them longer, what you can do is export them to a feature layer using geoprocessing, and you can do this in Pro as well. And these layers can be shared just with using ArcGIS sharing, right? So you can share it as a layer, then you can add it to a dashboard, a map. Then you can view it even in field maps. So they're used just like any other layer, and it's all dependent on how you share them with who.
So a question that just popped in my mind is about how geofencing could be played into this. So maybe describe how geofencing works with location sharing.
Yeah, sure. Geofencing I think, is really cool. It was something we introduced with Field Maps last summer, and something our users really wanted. So what geofencing allows you to do is define an area, and it can be a polygon or it can be buffer around some point or line features, and then do something with this area. And the 2 things you can do with Field Maps is say, once a user is within this area that we've defined as a geofence, we will turn on location tracking only for that area. So the way I see that used is, say you have a layer of all the properties for your organization. You only want to track people when they go in and out of company property. Or you can have an alert. So I did a little demo where I pretended there was some poison ivy in the park. And when I got near it, the geofence would pop up and say, don't go in there, there's poison ivy. So you can do alerts and you can track location. And this is something with field maps. And it's kind of an interesting way to combine location sharing within some other capability.
Yeah, that sounds like it's really taking location sharing to the next level, making it
really is, yeah.
more interactive too. That's really exciting enhancement on that. But you mentioned sort of briefly camping, 5 days in the wilderness.
Yes.
It sounds like you've been out doing things this summer, and I know that you were out there keeping track. So
yes,
what were you doing with tracks this summer vacation?
Well, because I'm a geo geek and I take my field maps with me when I go out, even on vacation, I decided to track my location because I was going offline and I wanted to see how it worked. And it worked really well. Like I said, I was out of cellular reach for 5 days. And it's interesting because when I was canoeing, it didn't know where I was. It knew where I was, sorry, but it didn't have a activity assigned to it because it uses your device activity. So it was just saying unknown, but it recorded all my tracks. And what I thought of improving is that next time I go, I'm going to actually make a map that has the downloaded GPX markers for campsites and portages so I won't get lost, because I did get lost. Traditional navigating, I'm embarrassed to say that as a geography person, but it was hard to navigate with a compass and a paper map on a lake where it's really windy and wavy. And I thought if I would have had my map all ready to go and not just collect my tracks, I could have really easily gone from one point to another. So I did use location tracking this summer. I am going to improve on it for my next trip, and it's actually really great for personal use as well as work.
You are truly a geo geek for
Yes.
bringing this out when you're canoeing around.
Yeah, it impressed my children. Oh, no, not really, but
Well, Sue, that was really incredible. Thank you so much for sharing some information about location sharing, and we'll have you back soon.
yes, thanks for having me.
All right, that was Sue Yeti. She is our Field Apps Geo Geek for this podcast, but her official title is Geomobility Advocate for Esri Canada, and she joined us today from her home in Hamilton, Ontario.